Okay, so you want to mount some lighting on the front bumper of your Generation 3 Ford Raptor. Well, the Foutz Motorsports stock bumper light mount is definitely one to consider. So in this video I'm going to show you guys kind of what's involved with the installation of this light bar. It's not too hard, but it does take a little bit of time and some well thought out procedures. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So in order to mount the Foutz Motorsports stock bumper light mounting bar, you will definitely have to remove both your skid plate as well as the front bumper completely. So Foutz Motorsports does have some installation instructions. They're not terrible, but I'm going to kind of walk you guys through a video here on how to do this and kind of following along with the instructions as well. So first things first, you're going to want to remove your skid plate. Now this has a total of 6 bolts holding it on. You have 2 at the rear and 4 on the front, 2 on each side, the passenger as well as the driver side. They are 15 millimeter for the large rear bolts and 13 millimeter for the front bolts. The rear 2 bolts, when you remove those, there is a bar that's going to fall down, so try to make sure that you don't let that thing sling down and knock you in the head. Once you get your skid plate removed, you have to start working on removing the bumper assembly. Now on both the passenger and the driver side, there is a support bar that is attached at the frame as well as the bumper by way of an 8 millimeter bolt. You need to take out or remove the 8 millimeter bolt, attaching it to the bumper, and then loosen the 8 millimeter bolt that attaches it to the frame, just so you can move it out of the way. The next step is a little bit time consuming depending on how much clearance you have, but there's a large harness connector that is mounted on top of the passenger side frame rail. Now you need to disconnect this. There's a large gray locking lever, but you have to depress the plastic unlocking piece in order to allow that to swing up. Once you have it swinged up 90 degrees approximately from the connector, you can disconnect this connector. It is also attached by way of a grommet to the frame rail, so just kind of pry up on that with a pry tool or a trim removal tool or something like that, and hopefully you have enough slack in order to properly release this latch so you can disconnect this connector. For me, it was a little tough because I had very little slack to kind of move that thing where I could see it. So lighting will be your friend, and definitely take your time. Do not force the gray lever up or you will damage it. Once you have disconnected the large connector on the passenger side frame rail, just inboard from that, working up towards the intercooler vents, there is also a small connector that's a little difficult to see, but if you look up there with the light you can see it. It's the motor that actuates the flaps in front of your intercooler. You must remove this connector. If you do not, you will definitely not be able to remove your bumper. And make sure that you depress the locking clip on this connector. Do not try to just pry it out. Now once you've removed the 2 electrical connectors, you're ready to start the removal of the bumper, and you're going to want to have some help to remove it. It's not heavy, but it's rather awkward. You have 2 21 millimeter nuts on the outside of each side of the frame, on the passenger side as well as the driver side, and on the inboard side of the frame you have a single 21 millimeter nut. So these are the 6 nuts that hold on the bumper to the frame itself. So you're going to want to loosen these up, and then with the help of a friend you're going to want to pull the bumper slightly out and then lower it down, and there's going to be some tabs holding a harness in above the intake to the intercooler flaps. Now for me, this was very challenging because there's not a lot of slack in this harness, and the Foutz instructions say there's only 2 tabs, but there was actually 3 on my 2021. So you're going to want to loosen up those tabs first to remove the harness, and then there's a plug on the right hand side that you have to disconnect as well. Now once you have removed this last connector, you can fully remove the bumper out. Make sure you have some padding or cardboard or carpeting or something like that to kind of set the bumper down. You are going to be moving it around because now you have to do some trimming on the rubber trim piece on the top of the bumper in order to make space for the brackets for the Foutz light mount. In order to remove the plastic and rubber trim on top of the bumper, it's a little frustrating. There is a tab on the end, and then you have some white clips that if you depress the back side of these clips, you can pull them out. You also have some rubber kind of pinch grommets that are part of or molded into the plastic rubber trim. On mine, my Raptor is 4 years old. It is a 2021, and I found that the pinch rubber grommets on the plastic piece were quite hard, and they broke fairly easily. So Foutz does say you can just leave this trim completely off if you wanted, but I wanted to kind of trim it up for the brackets and leave it on as best I could. I tried to do first a low profile trim just with enough gap for the bracket to fit underneath, and that didn't quite work. So I ended up just cutting the section out with the proper width to allow for the brackets from the Foutz bar to slip past the rubber trim and then to be bolted onto the rear. So whichever way you decide to do it is fine. Just understand this step is going to take you some time. Depending on which method you want to do. Just trying to get the trim piece removed was quite a hassle on my bumper.
Brake as well. So matter of fact, here I'll even show you one. So here's one of those guys right here. My truck's 4 years old, so this has never been off. So if you got a newer truck, you probably won't have as big of an issue. You know, rubber and stuff kind of gets hard over time, and I'm suspecting that's part of my issue here with this stuff. So just so you're aware, but once you get your light bar or your piece trimmed here, you have 2 bolts here that are going to attach the light bar to the bumper, and then you can start looking at putting it back on the truck. So when you go to put the light bar back on, you are going to need a spacer right here between the light bar and the bolt.
Okay, so the Foutz Motorsports light bar attaches to the rear of the bumper by way of 2 mounting brackets. Each one has 2 bolts that hold it on. Once you have those tightened up, you can get your buddy and start to realign the bumper to get it mounted up back on the frame rails of the truck. Now, if you have a third person to help you, it might be kind of easier to do it this way. And the reason I say this is because you have to reconnect that harness above the intercooler intake louver area, and then you also have to reattach the 3 wire loom grommets. And there's not a lot of slack there. There's not a lot of room. I was able to do it while holding the bumper, and my friend was helping me as well. But if you have a third person, it might make things a little easier for you. So just putting that out there. Once you get the 3 grommets reattached and the connector reattached, you can line up the holes on the frames with the bumper and then start to reattach your 21 millimeter nuts on the rear side. Now there's going to be some slop in the bumper, so you're going to want to lift up and kind of align the body lines as you're reinstalling the bumper. And it took us 2 tries. I tried to, luckily on mine there was enough dirt residue that I could see where the nuts were previously, so it would get me close. But yeah, it's not too hard. You have 3 on each side, and if you tighten one down, it will hold it. You don't need to tighten all 3, just for alignment purposes. So it took me, like I said, 2 tries, and then I was pretty much done with that. Once you get the nuts secure, they're a torque value of 75 foot-pounds on those 21 millimeter nuts, so a fairly decent amount of torque. Once you have your bumper nuts torqued back in place to 75 foot-pounds, you can go ahead and start the rest of the reinstallation procedure. So you're going to have to reconnect the smaller door actuator connector on the passenger side above the frame rail on the inboard side, and then also that larger connector that attaches to the top of the passenger side frame rail. So just take your time. You do not want to damage either of these connectors. They're in kind of awkward spots, and you know, that would definitely cause you a headache if you were to damage either one of those. Once you get those connectors secured and connected, you can go ahead and start to tighten up or reattach the bumper supports on both the passenger and the driver's side. These again are 8 millimeter screws, and pretty light torque on those. And then finally, you can go ahead and reinstall your skid plate. Now the skid plate itself, you know, I kind of just supported the thing up there and then put the bolts in on the front, and then also the bar and the bolts on the rear. They're torqued to around 25 foot-pounds, so not super high torque, but they have a little bit of torque applied there. And that kind of wraps it up with the Foutz Motorsports stock bumper generation 3 light mounting bar. Now I have seen a couple complaints about vibrations. Now Foutz did include some additional hardware that if you want to permanently mount the bar to your bumper, you can do so. There's 2 little brackets, and then some screws and washers and nuts and stuff like that. You know, what I had seen was some people said, oh, well, that it vibrates just a little bit. So if you're worried about that, you can better secure it, but just be mindful that you are going to permanently put holes inside of the top of your bumper. So I can't imagine that there are other light mounts for the front that don't have some sort of vibration. I mean, this is a, you know, an off-road truck. And the Foutz bar is very, very heavy duty. It is welded steel and then powder coated. But yeah, so if you're worried about that, that is an optional step for you. I opted out of doing that, but just making you guys aware. So anyways, that about wraps it up. If you guys have any sort of questions or comments, please put those down below. What do you guys think about this Foutz Motorsports stock bumper light bar installation? I'm really happy, pleased with the outcome of this. But yeah, look forward to some more Raptor content in the future. But for now, I appreciate everybody watching and subscribing, and I will catch you all in the next video. Y'all take it easy.